The hottest game mechanic of 2025 is coin flipping. At this point, you are probably aware of the game Unfair Flips, where you flip a coin with the single goal of getting 10 heads in a row. Northernlion has played it. I've already made a short about it. The game has reached a meme status that often leads to financial success for these smaller, simpler games. And in the latest Steam Next Fest, a demo for another coin flipping game has come out. Q-Up is a completely different take on flipping a coin, as impossible as that sounds. Where Unfair Flips is stripped down to only the slightest amount of mechanic on top of the basic probability of a coin flip, Q-Up puts that simple game of chance into the context of eSports. This is a video game that straight up looks like Apex Legends or Overwatch or Marvel Rivals. You've seen a video game UI that looks like this. The design is Fortnite maximalist, including a shop, messages from the developers, a carousel of fake news hits about the game, and even daily challenges. You can actually really queue up with your friends for coin flipping matches. It's a tongue-in-cheek take on esports that actually does have an interesting game within it, even if the coin flips themselves are completely random. These games are wildly different takes on a goofy idea, and the distance between those takes leads to thematic differences that I find really interesting. Yes, the two games where all you do is flip coins both have things that they're trying to say. I promise. And in order to understand those themes, I reached out to the developers of both games, and thankfully, both of them agreed to talk to me.
Hi there, my name is Heather Flowers. I'm an independent game developer, and my pronouns are she, her.
Sure. Hi, my name's James Lance. I'm the lead developer on Q-Up, working at Ebony House Games. We made Babel Royale, and we worked on Universal Paperclips. And previously I worked at Clay on Invisible Ink and some Don't Starve stuff. Yeah.
I spoke to Heather and James in separate interviews about an hour apart. You'll be hearing portions of those interviews in this video, and the full interviews will be available for monthly subscribers to my Ko-Fi. Besides flipping a coin, one thing that both Q-Up and Unfair Flips have in common is a number that almost always goes up. In the case of Unfair Flips, that is the dollar amount that you accrue as you land consecutive heads. The only time this number goes down is when you use that money to buy upgrades for your coin. These upgrades are an accessory to the primary mechanic of flipping the coin.
And you do upgrade the coin over the course of the game, so it's not like you ever are stuck with 20% unless you are one of the apparently many people who has decided to never upgrade the coin and just go with 20% forever. This community is terrifying to me. Probability is a garnish for some meals. In this, it's like giving somebody just a plate full of salt and telling them, all right, eat up, fucko.
I think that the upgrade in Unfair Flips that I love the most is the time that it takes to flip the coin. Because it demonstrates how meaningless it all is, while also admitting that it knows you care about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the upgrade where you can pay money to waste less of your time playing Unfair Flips.
Yes.
Which I think is really funny.
Q-Up also has an ever-increasing number, but in its case, Q-Up makes your Q value the entire focus of the game. Instead of an Overwatch match or a Battle Royale, Q-Up pits two teams of players against each other, except those players have no input in how the match goes. Instead, a coin is flipped, and if it lands on that team's side, they get a point. The first team to 3 wins the match. But with each coin flip, win, or loss, every player's Q value goes up or down. By default, a loss would lose you Q, and a win would increase your Q. But also, each player has a skill graph and multiple abilities that unlock as they gain experience. Each of those abilities have different triggers like on flip, on loss, or on win, and can trigger off of each other, adding to the amount of Q that player accrues. There's also equipable gear that adds to these values. It's absolutely wild.
When you play a game, you're expecting a certain outcome of randomness. So, 50% heads, 50% tails. In your mind, it looks like, you get a heads, you get a tails, you get a heads, you get a tails. Mm-hmm. In reality, randomness is obviously 27 heads in a row and then 4 tails. It's super streaky, right? It's all over the place. Randomness looks really weird when you encounter it. And particularly this has been coming up in esports a lot recently too, because people are playing ranked games, and when competitive multiplayer games first started becoming more ranked, initially people just tossed in like an elo system. There's just a basic elo system. Like if you go back and play StarCraft Brood War, it's just like if you win, you get points. If you lose points. It does chess elo basically. And then there's like custom servers where they're like IC Cup, and it's like a little more sophisticated elo, but it's just elo. It's totally like straightforward ranking. But then League of Legends comes in, these other games come in, and they start putting like these complex systems on it. So now you have a hidden ranking, right? In League of Legends. And then you have like a visible ranking. And the hidden ranking is just straightforward elo. Like that's what the game actually thinks you're rated at.
Yeah.
But the rating they're displaying to you, they're trying to get you to play the game more. So it's like, it's slowly climbing up. And what that gives players is this impression of a ladder, right? That they're climbing. And then they start to feel like, I think competitive multiplayer players have started to feel like, oh, I deserve to be gaining rank all the time. You know what I mean? Like I should always be getting points. If I'm not getting points, the game is broken. And so people are like, which is of course not true, right? I mean, like at a certain point, you're skill capped, right? You actually have to get better at the game to get points. But people have this impression because these rating systems, I feel like, have given them this impression that like, oh, I should always be earning points. And if I'm not earning points, the matchmaking is broken. I'm flagged for losses. I'm in elo hell. My MMR is broken. I need to make a new account. Skill-based matchmaking shouldn't exist. That's kind of a new one, right? Where like Call of Duty players and Apex Legends players and whatever think like, oh, I should just be able to stomp every lobby. Like if I'm good at the game, I should get into a lobby, and it shouldn't even matchmake me at all. I should just be stomping everyone, right? And so that's really interesting to me. And so all of this kind of coalesced for me into like, okay, well, what if there's an esport where you are actually just always gaining rank, right? Kind of like a parody of the existing ladder systems in these games. But also, a love letter. I'm a huge esports fan, and I think it's really interesting, this stuff. And I think it is weird. It's like, how do you interact with ladder systems and probability, and how should you feel like when you hit that barrier of skill? It does feel really bad. And so I think game developers are responding to that in a logical way. So that's kind of where Q-UP, that was a long answer, but that's kind of where Q-UP comes from.
This system creates a distance from the actual flipping of the coin, and the game instead focuses on this strategic deck-buildery Rube Goldberg machine that the player builds in its skill screen. I've seen people in the Q-UP Discord scoring 300 million Q per match. I truly did not expect the goofy coin flipping esports parody to have a really fun and interesting number goes up mechanic, but it is genuinely fun.
Yeah, well, I always knew, like, I wanted the joke of the game to be that there was no game, right? That there's just a coin flip. But then I was like, well, I also want to make a real game, Yeah, the way that system came up was basically we had like a big talent tree that looked much more like a normal, like a PoE talent grid or something. And we were trying to make that work, and we were like, oh, it's kind of interesting. But I always had this vision for it where I was like, I really want this game to be like a Zachtronics style thing. Like I really want it to be like a big factory that's outputting ranked points for you, basically.
Yeah.
And so we tried to make that like designed where it was all this tree stuff, but it just felt so designer led. Like it really felt like you're just doing exactly what I want you to do. Like I made this tree and you're experiencing it. And it felt sort of like an RPG in that sense. And I was like, I really want it to be like, just kind of freeform. So we ended up with this system where you can put this stuff around the grid. They all have these adjacency effects and trigger each other. And you end up with this really cascading, like factory style Zachtronics thing. It was really hard though. We played for like many months. We had the kind of talent system and we kept reworking it, trying to make it good over and over again. And I was agonizing about it. I was like, oh man, like, is this just isn't going to work. Like I had a couple times where I was like, okay, let's do a whole nother pass on the design for this thing. We went back and did another pass. And at some point I was just like, all right, I know this sucks, guys, but I'm just going to scrap the whole system and we're going to build it from the ground up as this like factory thing where you can move, like you just need to be able to move around everything.
Yeah.
And it needs to be much more dynamic. And I feel like that worked out pretty well because that ended up being kind of like the visual effect of the game. And then at some point I was like, let's just put like a visual preview of the skill grid and make the skill grid super interesting. And then that was good enough that we were like, okay, why do we have all this other garbage on the screen? Like, I'm just gonna scrap this stuff. It's not as good. So
I've been watching people in your Discord like posting like getting like 300 million Q point scores. How's it been seeing like the reaction to the demo since it's been out?
It's amazing. God, I mean, I just want to release the full game for these people. Like, it's, the demo is really supposed to be like, leave them wanting more, kind of like, we didn't want to reveal our hand and make people sick of kind of the whole experience. But man, the real game is so much better and it's so much longer. And I worry a bit that people think it's just going to be like, oh, it's a couple hours, it's like 2 hours and then whatever. I can see the number is going to go up and then it goes all the way to the top. It's like, it takes like 8 hours to get through the game on one character. And so I think, I love it. I also don't want people to burn themselves out. I'm like begging them to just like, please, stop playing.
I did see you played Q-Up.
Yes.
What were your thoughts of it?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really funny. Like, I especially thought the timing of it was really funny because I think it came out like 2 or 3 days after Unfair Flips, and I was like, shit, my lunch has been eaten. But like, I don't actually feel that way. Like, it's a game that's doing something very different on a mechanical and thematic level, while still playing with that very same core conceit of what if there was a coin that flipped.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny that we both reached for that exact same, because the thing about flipping a coin, right, is it's absurd. It's the simplest version of probability. It's the simplest way that you can touch it. It's the simplest way of making decisions. And so having it be the core propulsive engine for a game is essentially making the entire thing sit on a tower of absurdity. And so what I think Q-Up is doing is playing with that and sort of making a game that is fun and interesting and enjoyable on top of that absurd layer of like, I think it's really neat how much of it's about building up these skill trees and like trying to make feasible builds based on what you expect the coin might do.
Yeah.
When it's always a 50-50 shot, of course.
Both of these games have understood that part of commenting on players' response to games of chance is also commenting on the desires players have for forward constant progress. But playing each of these games, I was struck how different they were. It's remarkable how different 2 games about something as simple as flipping a coin can be. So I asked both developers what they felt that their game was about. You said, again, in your newsletter, you had this sentence that stuck with me. It's holding a mirror up to your face, and that mirror is the concept of 20%.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
So I think 20% is such an interesting, like, chance number, right? Because it's not unachievable, but you never expect success from it. And so I think iterating on, like, a very specific percentage is a great way to sort of meditate on what that number does to your brain. Like, 50%, you're not really surprised when you get heads. 20%, you are kind of surprised, but it is still fairly often. And like, you do upgrade the coin over the course of the game, so it's not like you ever are stuck with 20% unless you are one of the apparently many people who has decided to never upgrade the coin and just go with 20% forever. This community is terrifying to me.
A thing I love that Heather does with Unfair Flips is talk to the player in the log of heads and tails. She says early in the game that reaching 10 heads in a row may never happen, or it might happen right away. I got 10 heads in 977 flips, but after watching friends play, I learned that that's pretty quick. I thought I was going to have the fastest time, but another friend of mine got it in 246 flips, which is just further proof that even adjusting for the unknowability of probability, I can still be wrong. Maybe the best part of this game, though, is its variety of endings. After you reach 9 heads, the game picks a random ending. You have no control over which ending you get. The randomness continues all the way through to the end. I've seen 3 of the endings and been told of another. Watching my friends lose their minds at their wild endings has been so funny. These were people that were streaming the game, yeah, but their reactions were not put on. The game and its commitment to probability really do get into your head, and that provides so much opportunity to upset or confirm your expectations. Q-Up, on the other hand, has less to say about probability and more to say about the player expectations regarding eSports games.
okay, well, what if there's an esport where you are actually just always gaining rank, right? Kind of like a parody of the existing ladder systems in these games.
I know these feelings of competitive ladders well. I had to stop playing Marvel Snap because of the fear of dropping ranks on its ladder. I've actually never reached that game's top rank, not because I'm not capable of it, but because the anxiety its ladder causes affects my ability to play well. There was this Tumblr post going around a few weeks ago about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, encouraging people to only play games that utilize intrinsic motivation. That means that the game only uses the inherent joy of playing the game to keep you playing, rather than motivating you with rewards. I think that could be a helpful framework, especially for issues like I had with a Marvel Snap ladder, but I take issue with the idea in a single-player scenario. I don't really find harm in a single-player game that has no microtransactions. I don't think those rewards should necessarily be the foundation of the enjoyment, though. There's gotta be a good game there. But I don't feel bad about enjoying games like Balatro or other games that provide extrinsic motivation alongside the inherent fun of their gameplay. But Q-UP does something super interesting with this model of motivation. It takes player rank, a tool that is almost by nature extrinsically motivating, and morphs it into intrinsic motivation by trivializing that gameplay of its matches. There is not a way to be good at Q-UP's competition, no matter what the characters in its narrative imply. You receive these emails from characters who work at the fictional game developer within the game world of Q-UP, and you'll often get rewards based on your failures or success as a competitor. The email system is such a clever way to deliver narrative, and that this game attempts to have a narrative at all is incredible. That it succeeds at that narrative shows real skill.
I'm super obsessed with corporate culture, like kind of, I made a game before this called Smilebot, which is like another send up of kind of corporate culture. So I'm super obsessed with like game development culture, but also like, just corporate culture. Like I found this website once called Hey Taco, where you can just like, it's like a whole app where it's a whole like installation you pay for on Slack, where you can like, send a teammate a taco and then it like keeps track of the taco leaderboard and whatever. And it's just like this amazing, like just this whole corporate world of like managing these huge companies and this weird stuff that comes out of it. And so email for me is like a perfect storytelling medium for that, because it is like how you get these things in real life, right? Like when you get these crazy emails from your boss or like crazy HR emails and like trainings and all that stuff, it all comes through email. So for me, it's like really natural for the jokes that we want to tell about corporate culture and business and like relationships. And a lot of this game is like an extension of kind of the corporate core story vibe of some of the other stuff I've worked on.
There's been a bit of a rush to paint unfair flips as streamer bait, and I imagine the same will happen with Q-UP upon release. There's definitely memery happening in both games, but I think that reducing them to streamer bait is unfair. There are real games here in both cases, and also real things being said. I mean, how does it feel to you, like, being the meme game of the moment? Is that like a positive or a negative feeling to you?
It's very jokerfying. Like I said, I think some people are engaging with this because they think it's funny, because they get the joke. Like, I think the Northernlion streams about this game are very much in that genre of like, this is somebody who knows that it's funny to stream this game and is streaming it because they can make it work as a comedy bit.
Yeah.
And those streams are fucking hilarious. He does a great job. But I also see like many people who play the game entirely straight, who don't seem to realize that it's like, not making fun of them, that's not the right word, that it's about the thing that they are currently doing. Like, a common metaphor that I reach for what my intention for this game is it's, what if Duchamp's fountain was a slot machine? Which is funny. It's funny to put a slot machine in an art gallery.
Yeah.
But it turns out half the people who see that think, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, that's really funny, or I like what this is saying about X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And the other half just sit down and start playing slots.
Unfair Flips is gripping in the same way a slot machine is, but without any of the downsides of a slot machine, and with all of the commentaries that slot machine deserves. It's pulling on something inherent to humanity, and then commenting on that humanity, even though it's the simplest possible version of that kind of game.
It's fascinating how quickly people get entrapped by the game. Like, I have had people who actively told me ahead of time, like, I don't think this is a good game idea. I don't think I'm going to like this. And then sit down and have to be pulled away 10 minutes later because they just refuse to leave. And, like, I think part of that is just, like, the fact that the human gambling response is so strong. Like, and this is true of basically all mammals as well. Like, you see this in rats of the Skinner box and stuff like that, where if you give somebody variable rewards for doing the same thing over and over again, what you're doing is creating a situation where the proper thing to do for a person is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, which, as some people know, is the definition of insanity. Though I do think Balatro is also an interesting case study because it's the gambling game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it's not the first. Like, the first is Luck Be a Landlord, which is also great.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people saw the success of Balatro, and without, like, engaging with its very deep mechanics and the fact that it's this, like, incredibly polished thing, said to themselves, okay, well, gambling is the way you make money in this industry. And then, all right, let's make a roulette game. Let's make a coin pusher game. Let's make a blackjack game. I could go on and on and on. I could name any gambling game in existence, and there would be an actual game that does that. There's probably a craps game right now on Steam with 350 reviews, mostly positive. I am somebody who lives in the clone industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, Snake Farm and Fish Fear Me are very directly and very obviously inspired by Vampire Survivors. I think they actively say so in their Steam descriptions because they're just being honest about the thing that they are and what they are trying to do. And both of those games are also very different in a lot of ways. Like, both of those have the push their luck mechanic, and they also have like their own stories, their own themes, their own mechanics going on. They're not one-for-one clones, but the truth is, part of what made them a success in the sense that I was able to invest my time and money into them is because I knew that there was a fertile ground there that another game had already plowed, that I could go in and say, okay, I am more or less guaranteed, as long as I don't fuck it up, to do at least decently and get back my money.
Yeah.
And, like, to a certain extent, that's a little bit true of Unfair Flips as well. Like, clickers are big at this current moment, and I knew that a clicker would do good. It wasn't entirely a business decision because, like, I made this game because I thought it would be funny, but I did also know from the very beginning that it would pop off like this, because obviously it would. It's a coin. You flip it.
Yeah.
Who needs anything else?
In the case of Q-Up, it's a really fun game. It's just not the game that you expect when you see the trailer. And it's the commitment to the eSports bit that is the reason that this game works at all. I am really impressed with just like the level of production value you put into like the eSports like visuals and music and all the above. Can you just like tell me more about like how you did that, like why you did that even?
Yeah, so we have my dad Frank and then Martin, our like UX audio guy, and they're just killer. Like their art direction sense and their production sense and all that stuff. Like Martin did the music, and he just killed it within a couple of weeks. He was producing, like he was like, okay, I've got the vibe, and he works with this guy who's also killer. And they together produced like a bunch of D&B tracks, very like Wipeout kind of inspired was a lot of the stuff, and it came together super super quickly, a lot of that stuff, and just like a killer sense of art direction, which is not me at all, and incredibly grateful to be on a team with people who have that, because I don't. We managed to get a bunch of the menus looking somewhat different, and the art direction is just peak, and I did not take any credit for that.
Why have people actually queue up with people?
Yeah. I don't know. I just felt like it was needed to pay off the joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like part of the joke of the game is you're expecting it. Like, the first joke of the game is there's no game. And then the other joke of the game is, oh, there is an actual game. And then I feel like it just needs to be, like, kind of high production to pay off the whole idea. You know what I mean? So that's part of the reason behind the high production values. But also, yeah, it just needs to be really multiplayer. I don't know. I just had that as like a guiding principle early on. We just kind of made that call. I was like, this has to be real multiplayer. Like, I know it kind of shouldn't be. And it's caused us no shortage of, headaches, and it's difficult. And I still don't know if it's going to survive. I'm I'm our network programmer. So
Yeah.
God help us all. So, you know, I don't know if it's going to survive when it hits release, right? And
Yeah.
whatever. I have no idea how many users we're going to get, how popular it's going to be, but I have no idea how the networking will hold up. So it still might be a disaster, but I think, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just like it has to be multiplayer because it's a real multiplayer game. At the end of the day, it's kind of like, and then as the game goes on, it gets more and more multiplayer as well. And we do have some stuff in the very end of the game where we try to actually make it like a little bit of a real esport. So I think stay tuned for that. My dad designed universal paper clips, and that and so we work together at this company now, and he was saying early on in the development process, like, let's just make everything good. Like, let's make it really interesting. You know, just every part of the game, instead of having this like kitchen sink approach where we're just putting like, you know, a bunch of like kind of the incremental game approach, right? Where it's like nothing is particularly interesting, but like the confluence of all these different mechanics is kind of interesting in a way. Instead of doing that, let's just make like every single system in the game pretty interesting. And I think Universal Paperclips is also like that. It's like an incremental game where it seems like it's just going to be a bog standard incremental game, but then there's like just a lot of care and design put into, you know, just like the Sid Meier approach of like every decision should be interesting, right? And that's very much like our guiding principle in a lot of ways on a lot of this stuff.
There's an aspect of Heather and James releasing coin flipping games within mere weeks of each other that's reminiscent of Leibniz and Newton, or better yet, The Prestige and The Illusionist. When gaming culture is full of the kinds of games that use our basest instincts to keep us engaged, it probably could have been predicted that we'd see a simultaneous invention of coin flipping games. What a boon it is then that these two games are interested in related but orthogonal ideas, as Heather put it. I mean, what are the chances? If you're still here and you haven't subscribed, then this is your chance. Give the video a like, and if you want to see both interviews from this video in full, you can set up a monthly donation at ko-fi.com/Matt Horton. Thanks for watching Flow State, the show about the games we get lost in, and I'll catch you next time.